Okay, good morning, Rabbi Say. We're holding Menachos Daf Zayin. We're going to be starting the Vovum base towards the bottom. Now, as we mentioned, the Sugyas and Menachos go for a few blat. So we started a Sugya on Shabbos. The Sugya was, Rav said, that's in Vovum base, like about 1/3 down. Rav said that if you want to see it inside, maybe it's good actually to see that part. The beginning of the line starts with the word Omar Rav. Again, about a third down in the top of Omud base, Omar Rav. Zar shekomatz yachzer. Zar, a non kohen, who did kmitzo, which is the pa'ula of menachos, the first stage, but he was not a kohen. So what should he do? He will return it back. So the Gemara said, "V'anan pasal dan." We said it's pasal. So the Gemara says, "Pasal, my pasal sheyachzer." Means pasal to return it. Says the Gemara, we're not going to learn that inside now, but the Gemara brings that in our Mishnah we had a machlekes regarding that. The Mishnah in the end of Amud Aleph brought a machlekes of Rabbanon and Rebbe Seiru. Could you return or not return? So what is Rav telling me that you could return? So one goes back and forth. The Gemara concludes Rav is talking according to Rebbe Seiru. Meaning Rabbanon hold once you did something wrong with the mincha, you're done. But Rebbe Seiru said, I did kmitza, return it. Just return it. So what is Rav's the chiddush? So the Gemara says, and this was starting down at the one base. Ela kamash rolan, go to the bottom of one base, beginning of the line starts the word Rav, towards the bottom of one base. Ela kamash rolan Rav, komatz vafilu kiddush. The chiddush is, you did kmitza, you can return it. Oh, we know. Comes Rav to add that you did kmitza, and you took the kmitza and put it into a kli. So that's already stage 2. Stage 1 is doing kmitza. What do you do with the flour? You put it into a kli, that's Kabbalah. So even though you did stage 2, meaning Mekadesh, the mincha, you still can go back and go to the beginning. That's the chiddush. So let's see it. Kamash for komatz afilu kiddush. La'afukim tanoim is going to exclude the following tanoim. The Tanya Yossi ben Yossi, an interesting name. Yossi, the son of Yossi, and his grandfather's name is Yosyan. Okay, interesting. Rabbi Yehuda did kmitzo, but he didn't put it into a kli, into kiddush kli. Aval kiddush, once he put it into a new kli, posal, it's possible. I can't fix it. That is what they say. And Rav is coming to argue. V'ikadame, some say the opposite. Komatzin, kiddush loy. Rav is saying only kmitza, not kiddush. Kiman, kanitanoi, lafu kimitanakamo. Exactly the point. We're coming to exclude Tanakama, meaning they're coming to say that once you did kiddush, it's over. But Tanakama argues in these Tanai. That's it. So in other words, with discussion, what is Rav saying? Rav only kiddush. If you do kmitza wrong, you can fix it. But once you did kiddush, you can't. Or even if you did kiddush. So now the Gemara is trying to explain. Okay, so we learned if you do kiddush and if you did kmitza and you did once you did kiddush, you can fix it. What are they all? If when a psulim do a kmitza, that's considered to be avoido, as we learned till now. What do I care? He ruined it by doing it a bad avoido. I don't want to tell me kmitza is not avoido. So who cares? He put on the kli. He didn't do anything wrong with kmitza. It is avoido. So the Gemara, it's an avoido, but it's not a full avoido. You do kmitza, you didn't finish it until you took the kmitza, put it into the kli, which makes a little sense, because how does it work? So we're going to be discussing a little bit of today's daf. Kohen Gov does kmitza, takes the flour and puts it in the next kli. So until you don't put down the kmitza, you didn't finish what you're supposed to do. So if in the middle of the avoido they stopped, okay, forget about it. We didn't do anything. Let's go back to stage 1. But if you already finished the process, you took the kmitza, put it into the next kli. Now from here on, it's done. I can't fix it.
Then each part of the process and it's done.
Yes.
So wouldn't it be that you wouldn't be able to fix that?
So that's what the Gemara is saying over here. We have different opinions over here. This opinion holds it's 2 mitzvahs that come together. If I stop it in the middle, I can fix it. Finished it, you can't fix it anymore. Tanakama argues, but that's their svar.
I'll do it by one of my animals.
So shchita la'avodah,
Right.
and shchita stands on its own.
Meats and negative.
Yes, but in this case, that will be different. And we'll see. The Gemara is going to compare it in a moment. But this, that, similar to Kmitza itself, is different than Shechita, because Kmitza Kinadi Ba'azar. This is also another part which is going to be a little different. In other words, when is the finish according to this mandala?
We're going to say like soon, regards to that it is up a little.
Yeah, we hold Kmitza is Avaida.
Oh, meaning that Shechita is on it.
Shechita is not Avaida. The Gemara concludes that yesterday is now. The Gemara was a favorish. With Shechita is Lav Avaida. Yes, the Maskana was Shechita Lav Avaida. And that's why Azar could do it. Yeah. Says the Gemara, Yachi afiru lo kiddush, even without kiddush, right? Even so, you say, okay, you did the kibbutz, I didn't finish. Okay, understood. So what should you do? So these Tanoim, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi, and the Yehuda Nachman says, no problem, just return it back. And what does kiddush mean? Kiddush means they took the kibbutz and they put it into a kli. So the kli makes the kibbutz a kodesh. What was it before? So the simple understanding is basically two stages. You have kedushas mincha. Originally, when you have mincha into a kli, you have one kedusha. Then when you put it into the next kli, you have another kedusha. The Biskarov goes on to give it a more lumdish way to do different definitions of kedusha. The two different definitions. We're not going into it right now. But what we need for our sugya is two stages of kedusha.
That's the situation.
That's something else. Let's leave it aside. That's not again. And in this case, we'll get to that. I'll talk about it this year because now we get to this Indian no. What? Yeah, that's right. It's a coach color. Let's leave it aside. So we have over here in the kimitza, we have two stages. Stage one is the kimitza. It's the fact the flour is in a kli. Then I do kimitza and I have to put it in the stage two into another kli. Says the Gemara, what? Forget about putting it to another kli. When I go back to my original kli, I also put it into a kli. So if putting into a kli is kedusha, here I did a kedusha. Let's see the Gemara. On top. When I put the coins back in its place, tikdosh v'leave soil. You have kedusha's kli. You should make it possible. Says the Gemara. What do you see from here? Right? The reason why it's not because he doesn't want it to be kaddish. He wants it just to return it back. He's not planning to do an avodah. He said, "Oops, I made a mistake. I did kibbutz. What should I do? Just put it back." So I want to put it back. I'm not planning. I'm not intending to make it kaddish. So I need to have kedusha. Says the Gemara. Says hamidas mekachim. Okay, I'm medayek from here. If I don't want to have das, it will be mekadosh even though I'm doing it wrong. Is that true? There's a sugi we had in Zvachim. Taisus here is a big problem. How the Gemara over here fits with the sugi in Zvachim. Big Taisus over here. But the Gemara says, says, do I say that when I put something into klisharis, it makes a kaddish? What's the nafkamina? Likarv. What's the karv? There's a big sugi that we learn in Zvachim. The gabi olu lo yerdu. Something went in the mizbeach, we'll leave it there. So he says, what happens if it went into klisharis? Is that good enough to put it on the mizbeach? For Amalein Mikachim, we said no. Klisharis is not. So why here you're saying klisharis is mekadosh, midas is mekadosh? Amalein Mikachim likarv or Mikachim lipos. Something more. I'll tell you what. If I put in with das something to klisharis, not good enough to put it on the mizbeach, but it is good enough to ruin it. It's good enough to be bad, not to be good. That's the Gemara's mechalak. Okay, so that was answer number one. So the Gemara said, Gemara asked. This was like a sidebar. Sidebar was, hey, by the way, mashra from you, the midas is a kiddush. Leave it aside. The Gemara, what is the question of the Gemara? If I take the kimitza, put it into a kli, so it ruins it. I put it back to the original kli, now a problem. Why not? So the Gemara answer number one, I have no das. Answer number two, you know what happened? He put it into a bisa kedusha. Stage one of the Gemara understands. Bisa is the original kli where the mincha was. What's a bisa kedusha? What's kedusha mean? Overflow. I had a kli. Say this is the bisa, and the mincha is going over the flow, over it, right? So it's above it. Oh, what?
It's not in the kli.
It's not in the kli. So he didn't put it into the kli. Says the Gemara, 1 second, but how do you take it originally? It needs to be in the kli to be kaddish originally. If he took from the overflow to begin with, and never started. Hello, no. What he did was tfufa. Tfufa means it was exactly up to the top. So again, if your original was exactly up to the top, what happens when you took the flour? What did it create? A hole. So it goes back to the hole. That's not much what we're going to talk about. Oh, good point. Very good. The cave on the Kometz law, more asks, once it did so, all the legumo, may know. Kimi adel gave the monica be so again, going back to the Kli. So the one Kimi adel monich le adafno the mono, madid le venofan mimele. So it doesn't work that way. As you mentioned, it's like packaging. You took it out, I can't put it back straight into the holes. What do? Put it on the side, and then I'll shake the Kli until it straightens it up. Shaking the Kli is not considered to be putting it inside. It's considered to be going on its own. What is that? What is it considered to be? As the Gemara says, no. Again, when you put it back, when you put it on the side, and you shake it, and it falls in automatically. It's like a monkey putting it. Meaning, it's not considered to be an adam, and therefore it's not considered to be putting it midas. I mean, the Gemara now doesn't go das, not das. The Gemara just says someone puts it into the kli, makes a kaddish. You didn't put it into the kli, put it outside the kli. What do you mean? But it's going to be in the kli eventually. That's not. Now it's considered to be done by a monkey. Oh, that's the whole time. We learned it also earlier in Zachim. It has to be within the we learned in Daf and that we learned that Peites in Zachim. We learned the Gemara had a whole discussion that it has to be within the kli. If it overflows. Says the Gemara, that's answer number 2. So again, the Gemara asked, once I put it into the kli, it becomes kaddish. Says the Gemara, so the Gemara asked, once you put it back in the original kli, it also becomes kaddish. Answer the Gemara, answer number 1, you put it back into the kli, we're talking about he put it in V'lo midas. Answer number 2, he put it on the side of the kli. Answer number 3, he's asking, why do I answer? I'll tell you what you do. But the kli is on the floor. And it's not being held by a person. Maybe that's what doesn't work. No, the fact you don't say this answer. You could put it on the karka. You see, I don't care that the kli doesn't have to be held in there. So the Gemara says, interesting. And I guess I'll tell you the truth. It's a good error. We discussed that. We had a discussion. What was the discussion? Ravimi Tani Menachos Bei Rav Chisda. Ravimi was learning Menachos, Pesachas Menachos, by Rav Chisda. So again, Ravimi, let's remember the story because it's going on to the story. Ravimi was learning by Rav Chisda. Who was the Rebbe? Rav Chisda. Ravimi is learning by him. Says the Gemara, whoa, Ravimi by Rav Chisda Tani. Ravimi learned by Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda, Jesus says that Rav Chisda quoted something. What did he say? Kulfei Tave Bali. Many hits I got. It's a little like a nidui. For what? Me'avimi. Avimi hit me. Like punish me. Allah the Ashmites. We're going to the following Shmites. So what's the following Shmites? It has to do with it's a Gemara in it's a Gemara we learned in Baba Sia. But I don't remember exactly. Oh, maybe it was Ksuvis. Bala Achriz Ritzufim Lamed Yoim Shem Chamishi Shishim Yoim. So we have a day of Shuma Yisayim. Shuma Yisayim means you have to announce to the Yisayim, when they want to sell the property that belongs to the orphans. So in order to feed the almana, you have to come in and you have to publicize it. So how do you publicize it? You have to do bimakis for 30 days if you do it every day. Or you could do it Sheni Chamishi for 60 days. So it's less day, it's longer time period, but it's less days. That's what he said. So Avimi was punishing or hitting Rav Chisda to learn this Shmuel, the side Shmuel. So Mashma over here was the Rebbe. Avimi is the Rebbe of Rav Chisda. So what is Avimi learning by what's it by Rav Chisda? So I'll tell you what happened. Fascinating story. Avimi misachto isakro isakrole. Avimi forgot Menachos. Hello Menachos, he forgot about it. That's sick, he forgot about it. Also, Kameid of Chizda let Kuri Gamer. So he went to his Talmud of Chizda, said, Rav Chizda, please teach me. Remind me the Gemara. So Gemara, if Avimi is the Rebbe, tell Rav Chizda, come to your house. Call the Talmud. Says the Gemara, Sova Achi Mistayim Milsat Fei. More siyata d'shmaya. Says Rashi, why? You got so much out of timing. The more gear you put in, the more effort, the more you'll be able to find. Here the Achronim point out, there's a discussion, is there any merit or any toyelis and making something which is a little bit harder to get to? For example, is there a toyelis to have things to have to look at its fine? Let's say you want to find something. So I open a sefer, open another sefer, open a third sefer. Someone says, you know what? I have for you a likud. It's all here. You take a booklet, and the booklet would have everything. Is there any advantage on working hard to find it? So they bring a raya from here. What's this raya? What's this raya? The raya is because what is Avimi doing? He's walking to Rav Chizda. What's the point? I'm not getting anything by walking. You are. Any avoid, any yearning towards the process, that itself makes a yigia and makes it better for you to learn. So that's what you see over here. He was going to his town. Okay. So they learned. So that was all a preview. So Avimi is learning Menachos from his Talmud Rav Chizda. Amalei Ketzad Koimtzi. He said, okay, let's learn. Kmitza. What do you do, Kmitza? Amalei Miklize. He points to a kli. He says, yeah, you do. He showed him on the kli. So one second, the kli that you're showing me is on the floor. No, the magbulei kohen. The kohen will hold the kli. Then after I did kmitza, I have to put the kmitza into a kli. It's called kiddush kli. How do you do that? Put it into the kli. Do I put it onto the kli that's on the floor? No, the kohen will hold it. So quickly I need 3 koyanim. Why? As the Rishonim pointed out on the daf, a kohen can do avodah only with his right hand. So you hold the kli with one hand. So you can't hold the 2 kelim. So Reuven kohen will hold the kli. Shimon will do the kmitza. Levi will hold the next kli for Shimon to put it in there. So I need 3 koyanim. What? Yes, because that's part of the avodah. Good. But that's what we should learn. The Taisa Shir Kubet says, really based on Rashi, they also has to be Yad Yamin, and never has to be this way. That's just when you do the thing, it has to be Yad Yamin. Now the Shir Kubet points out, he says you should know, really, you don't have to have 3 kohanim. It could be Reuven doing both. Reuven can hold the first kli, and then Shimon picks it up, he puts it down, he picks another kli. So you don't need an actual third kohen, but you have to have someone doing it. No problem, yeah. Korban Tamid, anybody who learns Maseches Tamid saw this. How many kohanim were involved in the avodah? 13. There's 13 kohanim involved. So he says, you know what? Yeah, Korban Tamid is 13. So Menachos is 3. Not so shver. ACVA, so he asked him a question. It says in the Mishnah, our Mishnah, Zaklad is the rule. Kola koimetz v'nois bekli kvitza. Nesri bekli. Hamoilich, walking. Hamaktir. Le'echol dover shedar kolechol. Anything that is normal to eat, which we support the mizbech, or for the kohen. Filu magbiyah l'ktani. Well, you're missing an avodah. According to you, there's another avodah. You have to pick it up. We didn't mention it. Sigmatana say the avodah is not v'lo yisrael kohen. No, it's not a new avodah. The avodah is 4. How many kohanim have to be involved in these avodas? More than 4 people. But I didn't mention that because I didn't mention the avodas. So the Gemara said, at this stage, you cannot use al-gabi karka. That's what changes this question. Can I do kmitza when the kli is on the floor? He says, look what they do inside. Meaning what? We have a Mishnah. The Mishnah tells us what happens every single Shabbos. Every single Shabbos, they have to take away lechem aponim. How do they do it? The Mishnah tells us. There's 4 koyanim that go into the heichel. 2 are holding the breads, 6 each. and two are holding the bazichim. The bazichim are the lavoina. It's the kli that holds the lavoina. Lavoina is the spice for frankincense. Then there's four that are gonna greet them. Because we know there's bread on the table. So what happens is there's four kohanim coming with the new bread on Shabbos, and four kohanim taking the bread from last week. Right? So they're taking it. Where they're taking it from? For the shulchan. Where's the shulchan? On the floor. Nobody's picking up the shulchan. It says exactly when kohanim come in. 4. The shulchan is on the table. Now, as we're going to see, it's sitting on the floor. It's based on the floor. Now here we know the lechem aponim, as we'll see throughout the Masechta, more and more, than we'll have a whole parak about it. Lechem aponim is considered to be a mincha. As one of the menachos is lechem aponim. So if lechem aponim is a mincha, you're doing it on the floor. That's called kvitza. It's compared to the kvitza. Let's see. It's not part of this avoida, but it's the levoina. Levoina, taking the levoina out is kvitza. That's what we see over here. So says the Gemara, look at on with base. Right? So as Rashi says, look at the first Rashi. No, I'm gonna just go back to your question. Taking out the levaina is considered to be like kmitza. So you see you doing it from the floor because the shulchan is on the floor. Fascinating. When you out, you have to pick up the shulchan. You agree with the shulchan like that? Says the Gemara, La Voma doesn't say the avoid is no cut. Akanami says the avoid is no cut. So the Gemara tell you the same thing. Who said maybe someone does have to pick up the table? But I didn't mention because I just mentioned the main avoiders. Bring the bread, take a bread, but exactly all the price didn't go into it. So Midomi also learn the minyan of the Kohanim. I told you exactly how many Kohanim go in. There's 4 going in. There's 4 going in. Doesn't say. He should have said there's a 5th Kohen. That is the proof. You learn upon him. You can do kmitza from a kli. Back to our sugya. Our sugya said when you do kmitza wrongly and you put it back, look where you're ruining it. So Gemara said 3 answers. Answer number 1. We talk about a kli. There's no das. Answer number 2. He didn't do it into the kli itself. He put it on the side and then shaked it. Why don't you say answer number 3? It's agabe karka. Agabe karka is okay. Okay, that was it. That was that part of the sukkah. So the Gemara Marov. Pshita li koimitz bekli shagabe karka. You could do kmitza from the floor. Shekem matzinu b'sig bazichim, as we just mentioned. Bazichim and lecha aponim. Mekachi mincho bekli shagabe karka. You could do kiddush, meaning putting into the kli on the karka. Shekem matzinu bazichim. Same thing by bazichim. Bazichim is the levoino. Putting it on the shulchan is considered to be the kiddush, even though the order here is the opposite. Because the bazichim, putting on the shulchan comes before taking out of the shulchan. So keep that as something to think about.
It's supposed to be that putting it on the shulchan is not part of the Shulchan. That's what it's not.
The Gemara says it is.
Oh, it is.
That's what the Gemara says. Rambam brings a raya from there. But here I'm just pointing out that comes before the siluk. Usually it's the opposite. The kiddush comes after the kibbutz. So here it's different. So let's put it aside. Something to think about. Says the Gemara, boy, Rava, kiddush koimetz mai. Doing kiddush of koimetz. Sorry. I said something wrong. The kiddush over here is in the right order. We'll get to that in a moment. Where is the kiddush over here? Mikachi mincho bekiddush kabekaka. That's exactly the point I'm trying to get to. I said it wrong. The kiddush mincho over here, there is 2 stages of kiddush, as we mentioned at the beginning of the sugya. The first stage is you have to put the mincha in the kli. Then what do? Kmitza. Then what do you do with the kmitza? You put it into another kli. So the first kli can be on gabi karka because the first kli is exactly equivalent to the shulchan. You put the levaina on the shulchan. But what about putting the koimitz into the kli? That's what the Gemara is asking. It says the Gemara, boy, roll the kiddush koimitz by. Meaning after you did the kmitza, you put it into the kli. Can you put the kli shalabi karka? Before the Gemara said pashad, yes. The Gemara speak about it. You have to have 3 kohanim. So we really addressed only stage 1, meaning the kli. I do kmitza from the kli gabi karka. Then we spoke about putting it back to its original state, al gabi karka. But what happens if did commit to good and now putting it to another kli? That other kli could be al gabi karka or not. Do we learn from mincha that you could do al gabi karka, the original one? So maybe the kimitza will also be able to be done al gabi karka, or you learn from the blood. The blood, what's the blood? When you share the carbon, you have to receive the blood. The receiving of the blood has to be in the air. That cannot be done al gabi karka. Rashi says the Kabbalah is down. Nechtivi krivu bnei Aaron. Famim Torah's Kohanim. It's a medrash. The krivu is Kabbalah Saddam, and the Kabbalah needs to be by with a kohen. It can't be al gabi karka. What? What do you mean down? There's no Kabbalah today. No, Shechita, you have no Kabbalah. Kabbalah is only avodah and be some English. We don't have a Kabbalah Saddam. Kabbalah's dam, you have to put the dam into a kli, take the kli, throw the blood onto the mizbeach.
Oh, not
okay?
What you cover.
Yeah, no, not chulin. So the Gemara says, the pashto min dam afil. You learn from blood. Says Rashi, of course, because Kabbalah is connected to Kabbalah. Putting the koimitz into a kli is equivalent to putting the blood into a kli. How can the Rava say that? Mitzah that I did in two separate kelim. We're not going to all my Ein Kodesh. I have to do everything in one kli. Rava Amar Kodesh. V'imisa leilaf midam. Blood, as we learn in the second Zvachim, you can't receive blood in two different kelim. It has to be all in one kli. So kibitza should be only in one kli. So well, you're right. Although be Rava may Rava change his mind, and all the kibitza you can't do two different kelim. It has to be one kli. Okay. So the Gemara asked basically. So really, where are we holding? The Gemara spoke in the beginning until the first part, Kamitza from the Kli, and putting putting it originally or returning, which is putting it originally. Then the Gemara is now discussing what about putting it new thing. I mean, after you did Kamitza, putting it into another Kli, then new Kli could be al gabi karka. So what's it? Do you learn from blood? Or you don't learn from blood. So the Gemara said, if you learn. We do learn from blood because the fact that I can't do it two different kelim. So you learn from blood. What? And then you put it back another kli. No, that's only when you're talking about returning it. I'm talking about the regular avodah. You did kmitza, a regular avodah, and now I want to put it to another kli. Says the Gemara. How do we know that you can't do blood to do two different kelim? How do we know that? Anybody who learns Zvachim remembers this because we saw this in Zvachim not so long ago, about a month ago. We learned this. What was this about? The first part, the first line is talking about Menachos. Menachos is the water that we use for paradum. You put it into two different kelim, the water. If you did less than kayazah in one kli, let's get another kli, like Kiddush. It needs to be all in the same, in one, and you have to have enough hazah, enough water in one kli. What about blood? The blood of a korban. Can it be done in two kelim or not? Or my time, it has to be in the water, one water. Has to be one blood. Also by blood, it needs to be in one kli and not two kelim. What's the raya? That it says in the pasuk the toval that you tvila needs to be when you put it into the finger into a kli. The loy maspik. Maspik means that if you have just like a drop of blood on the end of the cup and you have to like rub a little drop. No, you have to dip. Dip means you have to have enough liquid to dip. Bidam, shia bidam, shiu tefillah mikor. You have to have enough blood in the beginning. Not that you receive it to the kelim and then mixed it. Minadam shebeinin. Has to be the blood shebeinin, which we'll see in a moment what it means. You have to have these first two limudim. So you need to have enough blood to dip. And you have to have bidam, they have to have blood, the whole shear. If it's a bedam, let's say, okay, I can receive it in two different kalim, and then you split. I can one drop of blood here, one drop of blood here, mix it together, and now I have enough blood. Because one bedam has to be originally enough blood. Because one bedam, I mean, I feel last week. Maybe if even one drop is enough. Because one of it needs to be enough to dip. Right? So that's the limud. That's the source. So you have to have enough blood. Mina dam shebeinyan. What is that? Limut line. Meaning, every time you sprinkle blood, you have to dip the finger. Because how does it work? The Kohen takes his finger, dips it into the blood, sprinkles. Now, let's say you sprinkle, I have enough blood. Let me sprinkle again. No, you have to dip again. That's what I mean. Dam shebeinyan means, because I tell you, it needs to be blood for every sprinkling. So the Gemara says, I can't use the leftover in the finger. If I have leftover blood on my finger, I can't use it. Your Talmidim said, you're doing a zoh, which is we're talking over here, regarding you're doing a zoh with the blood. And some of the blood spilled from his hand. If he didn't finish doing hazor, don't kibus. What's kibus? If you remember, that was a very difficult sugi in Sechet Zvachim. That when the blood, before the blood was sprinkled, if it falls on the clothing, you have to do a special kibus. Special kibus means you have to go and wash it. It's 7 different simanim. It's a whole mess up to go and wash it up. It's a special din deraisa to do kibus. Mishehiza ain't no kibus. Once I finish the sprinkling, I don't have to do kibbutz anymore. So what do you see over here? That as long as I didn't finish sprinkling, it still has a kedusha and it has a kedusha of blood, because the kedusha of blood requires kibbutz. My lavat shulagama is awesome until you don't finish to do azar. Umishgoma is awesome. I mean you have all 7. Shravit Shrine Shvet Ksherim. The more understands what does it mean. He sprinkled. As long as he didn't finish the 7 azayas, any blood in the finger that falls on the beged has a kedusha of blood. So you see, even though I already did one sprinkle, the blood on that finger I can still use. Says the Gemara, look, actually, yotzum yoda azot ton kibus, meshiyotzta azot biyoda v'nitzei mashenisha ain't ton kibus. No, you said it wrong. Meaning, he sprinkled with his finger. Once he sprinkled, the blood that left on the finger, even though he needs to do a few more azaz, they don't have it in kedusha. But before he sprinkled with the finger, so the blood does have kedusha. In other words, no riot from here. The old Gemara wants to tell me if I sprinkle with a finger, if I want to sprinkle that finger, I need to dip it again. That love is not good. ACV Abai, why brings a question. It says the Braiso, once he finished the Azaya, so then he's going to wipe his hand on the body of the Paraduma. Only once you finish. As long as you didn't finish, you can still go and it's still you don't clean. So no, I tell you, when he finished, he's going to clean his hand. But when he did finish, he's going to clean the finger. In other words, every time he does one sprinkler, cleans the finger. One sprinkler, finger. Then he finished, he wipes everything that he has in his hand. So and if he does his hand, he's going to put his hand on the par adumo. What he's going to clean his finger with? So here, what's the problem? Who's going to clean his finger with? So we have 2 Pirushim and Rashi. Rashi over here explains, like the parentheses. He says, the Rashi says, because he's not there. Meaning, the paraduma is down. Paraduma is outside base of English. The sprinkling is going in base of English. So until he's not finished, he's not next to the paraduma. Paraduma has to be burned outside the base of English. That's what the paraduma is. He has to go inside the base of English and do the sprinkling.
What, another carbon?
No, in the parichas.
Oh, I mean that was.
Or in front of the parichas. So it's 2 different places. So after I finish, he's done. He goes down the Arabais and he cleans his hand. But in the middle, I can't do it. Toys disagree with that. Toys says that they all were done in the same place. Machlekes where it was done. No, he holds it was done down. The reason he brings Rashi and Zach, Rashi and Zach says the reason he can't do it because then his fingers gonna get dirty with the hair of the paraduma. and it's going to ruin the sprinkling. I can't clean it on an animal. The animal will make it dirty. So therefore, what do you have to do? You can't clean on the paraduma. So let's skip the parentheses. Bisfat mazrek, kedechtiv kippur izol. So no, I'll tell you where you do the finger. The finger is, he doesn't do it on the paraduma. He does it on the kli. What's the kli? He is dipping. Every finger that he finishes, he does like this. Sfas mazrek, on the edge. That's what he does. He finishes the whole thing, he goes to the paraduma. Can't do paraduma in the middle, either because he got dirty or because they're not in the same place, to prove Rashi. So the last one he does in paraduma. But every finger, where does he clean? Cleans on the edge of the kli. Says the Gemara, what's the raya? Because it's called kippur izov. The mazrik is the vessel that you use to throw the blood. It's called kippuri. Kippur izov, that's its name. Like kippuri. Kippuri means to clean. It says the Gemara Gittin. Means when I want to clean something, I rub it. Why is it called kippur izov? Because the kohen rubs the finger on the kli. So you see that it's called kippurim because you rub the finger. That's the raya of the Gemara. This, by the way, as we mentioned in Mesechus Zvachim, that's the Maharal points out. That's a Yom Kippurim is called Yom Kippurim. What's the concept of Kippurim? You're cleaning off your averos. I mean, you're just rubbing it out. To tell you, the only way Yom Kippurim works, or the reason Yom Kippurim works, because the aver is not us. The aver doesn't reflect who we are. It's like a dirt. It's like having a little blood. I just rub it out. Person, the internalizing of any kapara is to realize that aver is not who I am. It doesn't define me. If it doesn't define me, I can rub it out. It's like blood. Kippur is of Loshi cleaning up. It's like Mora says, that's the Gemara concludes right now. So again, we had a very, very filled up, many, many details. But the Gemara started with the idea was when I do take the kibitza, put it into the kli, the chor I'm ruining it. So the Gemara brought three answers. But two answers. One was no das, put it back, or that. Well, the second answer was he didn't put it into the kli, put it on top, and he shaked it. It's like, well, what about putting it on the floor? So more came into a whole sugi to tell me that maybe kibitza can be done on the floor. So you put mincha on the floor and do kmitza on the floor. So then Gemara said, what about after I did kmitza and I'm putting the kmitza, can I put it on the floor? Do I learn from blood or not? So then you learn from blood. And in blood, you can't, it has to be in the air, or say this has to be in the air. So you learn from blood? What do you learn from blood? Can you divide into two? Rava said you could divide into two. Rava changed his mind. You can't divide into two. How do you know the blood you can't divide into two? The Gemara brought a raya from different psukim, the dam, and he made, and then the Gemara added one more thing, which is you need to sprinkle every time you want to sprinkle the blood, you have to dip it into blood again. That's what we ended the sugya. And once they continue on to continue with the sugya, because tomorrow's daf, we'll learn from here.